Giancaspero on Orgosolo Murals, an artistic experience between local self-determination and the construction of a national identity. And then we will have a Q&A, and then the coffee break. Thank you.
Hello. Okay, so let me start by thanking the organization for having me here. Yeah, Istanbul is a beautiful city, so very glad to be here. So I'll talk about a kind of participation strategy for art creation. Where the main thing is for an artist strategy to have a lot of contributions, maybe a lot of small contributions to define the formal or aesthetic part of the work. Okay, this paper, this presentation is a part of a main research on the aesthetics of mass participation. There are two keywords on mass participation that are patterns and unpredictability. When you have many contributions, many small contributions, you are sure to get some kind of pattern of action, of contribution for the artwork. But also, there's always the unpredictability of the individual action. The individual participant action, and from the conjunction of these two keywords, the patterns and unpredictability, arises a form of an aesthetics that I think is quite specific to this kind of works. This is a research included in my PhD. Research work. It's a PhD in Science and Technology of the Arts in the Catholic University of Portugal. And is being developed at the Research Center for Science and Technology of the Arts there. So I'll talk a little about mass participation. I'll talk about the work that this paper refers to, that is a first typology, first for me at least, of mass participation works, of typology of the artist's possibilities of opening up his work to participation, and then I'll show some example artworks. So I'll start by a brief definition of mass participation. And here we state that the aesthetic result from mass participation comes both from the collective patterns and the difference of individual choices that arise from a large number of contributions to an artwork. For instance, this is a work by Aaron Coughlin and Takashi Kawashima. They asked 10,000 people through Amazon's Mechanical Turk, crowdsourced platform, for doing a visual representation of 1/10 of a $100 bill. Okay, so you might see the image. The whole image is made from very little small images that result from the work of 10,000 people. And here you have some of the responses to that invitation they made. You see that the 10,000 part of $100 bill is almost abstract for people who were trying to make that part. I should say that people did not know what they were doing beforehand. And some, and you can see on the top, some that went to a great detail in trying to do exactly their part of the bill. Some of them were a little more creative. Some of you maybe new are in Kotlin. Some are mad because in this Amazon's platform, it's a crowdsource where anyone can put work to be done by people who are connected to that crowdsourced platform, and he paid for each drawing 1 cent of a dollar. That meant that the total workforce for this work costed $100. So in this case, the result is the collective in the final $100 bill, but is also made from these different interpretations of the work or what they have done, of what participants have done. For participation, there are a lot of key references working mainly on participation occurring on the museum or in the gallery space. They talk about the politics of participation. And Nicolas Bouillot, for instance, in relational aesthetics, approaches the relation of people that make the artwork in the space, in the gallery space maybe, or in the city in general. Claire Bishop talks about this aesthetics of participation, and she finds that it's a greater risk for the artist, but there's always an advantage of this unpredictability to the work of art. Frilling saw all the participation and he sees that is tightly related to the advances in the arts. For mass participation, there is a shift between what is the participation in the place where the work is exhibited and participation that is made outside the work or in a different time and different space. I talk mainly of pieces that are made using internet or web devices where people at home can participate in work. So there's not a direct connection between participation in the space, but there is a personal participation at home or whatever. So I see this is a kind of a recent development in participation. And it's a part of continuous opening up of the work to the public, or to the public. It started with the backwards and in the early 20th century, and little by little works are being opened up. The control or the final form of the work of art, or the aesthetics of the work of art, was being transferred to outside elements in collaborations, in participation, in interactive works. I like this idea of having a work that is so open that it's open to a massive number of persons. Of course, this is made possible by technological advances, where digital means that nothing is really closed. Everything is open up to the further completing, distorting, destructing will of other persons. Also, conceptually, it has a lot to do with self-organization, with emergence. With all these talk about something that is bottom-up, something that it comes from the large number and grows into the individual. And so, from mass participation, there is a work of art that comes from the work of a large number of persons that auto-organize the formal aspect of the work. Professor Miranda says, well, in relation to interactive art, not to participation, that there is finally life entering the artwork. Okay, something that again, from the backwards, you have seen this life-art relation being talked about. It says that now we can see that life is really part of the artwork. So the proposed typology is about how artists can choose to have this participation going on. I found 5 criteria that you can see here. The criteria is participant investment, and categories are low, open, and high, and that means what do artists propose to participants. Low means a simple thing, a very simple thing that can be done in seconds or in a couple of minutes. Open means that you can choose to leave to the participants more work, things that demand more time, or high, where really you have to do something that is very intensive work-wise. In participant awareness, we talk about if participants are unaware, they are participating, and this can be true, you'll see some works. If they are aware, they are participating in something, but they are not aware of the end result. Or if they are aware, they are perfectly knowing what they are doing and what will be the result of their actions. Contribution filtering, another criteria. Some works are author filtered. That means that participant proposes, the artist proposes some action to participants, and then he chooses from the results what he wants to use. That can be community filtered. Let's say that the community seeing the work is also responsible for choosing the best participation, for instance. Or can be interface filtered. And this interface filtered means that the author, he devises the interface for participation, and he accepts that all the things that interface lets participants do is acceptable for the work of art. And this is very risky because participants, when doing things in the internet or contributing in the internet, many times will try to get around the rules, to break them, to do things that are not expected. This relates with participant identification also. When participants are anonymous, there is a greater chance that every kind of participation will happen, even the most subversive to the most respectful to the artwork. If the identification of the participant is known or traceable, there is some kind of responsibility of the participant. He may be less free to do whatever he wants. There's also criteria of participation and condition. How will participation end? It can be endless. The proposed piece can be always getting more and more participation, more contributions. It can be time limited. The artist may define, okay, we'll participate until a set number of time. Or it can be based on the number of contributions. Okay, I'll stop at 50,000 contributions. You see some works that can feed some of this categories. Here you have an image from the world's first collaborative sentence by Douglas Davis. This is a really early net art piece. Douglas Davis started in a gallery space with a computer and a keyboard, asking people to contribute to a sentence. A sentence that the only rule here was not using the final point, how you say it, the end point of the sentence. So the sentence would be growing, growing, growing. Here we see two stages of that sentence. The first is the left image is how it started. And then we see that sometime after, the people started to using it also very creatively and subverting the rules of the interface. They started experimenting with colors, with the font sizes, with and some of this sentence, some parts of this sentence are completely abstract because I don't know, maybe a font is so big that you only see color, for instance. So Davis was really happy with this and said the sentence evolved to be a vibrant, very a mutant piece that evolved to something that was not expected from the initial rules. This is an example of an endless contribution. Now we cannot contribute anymore for technical reasons, but Cristina Sommer and Lauren Mignonneau, some French from the audience can help me with this. They do some pieces using artificial light systems. In this case, the life forms editing a digital background image were populated by digital species whose DNA was built using emails from participants. So a participant would send an email to the project, and that text would be converted into a DNA of a species that would relate to other species, to this artificial life habitat. In listening post, this is an example of an unaware participation where people, the sentences that appear on this work, and it can be seen and can be heard on the installation space, come from chat rooms, and they are chosen if the sentence starts with an I want something. This piece has a lot to say about it, but it illustrates that this kind of relation with a participation that is not voluntary. Okay? Participants in this piece don't even know that the piece exists. They are doing what they have done naturally. Create the relation to this pattern building is that is so close to it's so unpredictable what can be shown with sentences are chosen by the project, and that it creates always something new, something evolving. Million Penguins was an attempt by Penguin Books to have a novel to be written collaboratively. And they opened up a wiki interface so that anyone could go to the wiki and start contributing to a novel written by a community. They started by asking, can a community write a novel? The answer is no. Okay, they found out that you cannot write a novel, at least in these terms. For each participant that tried to do something with sense, there was a lot of participants that disrupted the whole process. And so they defined this more in the end. They saw it more as an experiment that was functioning like a circus, like an happening, like an experiment on social behavior on the web platforms. Here you have an image from Chris Milk's The Giancaspero project. He asked the community to draw a frame from a pre-recorded video, to make a musical video for a Johnny Cash song. You can see in the image, you have the video playing, and the video is composed by drawings from many people, and each frame, maybe you can see it, has a lot of contribution. This is the vertical space. It's each frame has contributions for a number of people that will draw the frame of the video. And then the result, you can see the animation, almost a stop motion of collectively built video. This is an example of community filtered process. You can see the video with the frames chosen by the artist, but you can also see the video with random frames. You can see, but the principal way of seeing it is with frames that are chosen by the community. So you can vote on your favorite frame for each frame of the video, for the favorite drawing for each frame of the video. And the most popular go up, and you can see the video made from those frames. Again, Aaron Coughlin, here with a piece that it was a commission by an insurance car company, okay, and it was very literal. They wanted something that talked about the personalization of their insurances. Okay, and he devised a platform and asked the community each one to draw a car. Okay, the result is there were, I think, more than 100,000 drawings for this project. They shows 50,000 drawings. So what you can see in the project is a continuous flow of 50,000 different cars passing by. And each one, of course, very different than the others. So, to conclude, I would say that these examples, and I try to get examples from borderline artistic practices. All have in common that idea of getting some kind of pattern from the participants' actions, to get a general feeling of what they do and what they choose to do, but also to get also what can not be expected, the individual action that cannot be predicted. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Giancaspero. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Murals. Usually I work on museum as agent of social inclusion, but today I will present you something about urban streets in a small town of Italy. I apologize to read, but my English is not so good to speak freely, so I hope you can understand. So, the late 60s starts an era of great political and cultural fervor in Italy, and more generally in Western countries. The entire peninsula is shaken by the struggles of workers and students who claim the fundamental rights on which today modern Western societies are based on. Major ethical issues such as abortion and divorce, or the status of women in factories and societies, expose the attitude of a country that is still highly underdeveloped. Even Orgosolo has a small part in this innovative pulse, living a period of great fights lasted about 3 years, from 1968 to 1970. And known as the local Triennio Rivoluzionario di Orgosolo. Orgosolo, a small town of shepherds located at the bottom of the highest and most inaccessible mountain of the Sardinia Highlands, the Gennargentu, was characterized by an underdeveloped stroke backward until the late 60s. For centuries, people from Orgosolo devoted themselves to a semi-nomadic form of sheep husbandry, with archaic costumes that forced the shepherd to move along fertile lands, by the mountain during the summer and by the sea during the winter. It is in fact a hard work that, despite the numerous efforts, leads low incomes barely suitable for living. Besides the social class of the shepherd, there is another one that still share the same pastoral origins, the landowners, that in Sardinia's land are called sos proprietarios. The rise of that class occurred thanks to the violent appropriation of cattle, public and private land left unguarded, as well as through bribery, abuse of power, and connivance with local authorities. The fight against the rich leads to the death of cattle, to the devastation of the countryside, to the blackmail and murder, in a endless succession of revenge where hatred nurses more hatred. But the persistence of this form of violence is due to the troubled relationship that has developed with the Orgosolo settlers. It was indeed a land of conquest and colony, where different worlds crashed each against the other. And facing the strength of Orgosolo people, colonizers could only occupy the region by force in order to impose a life habit which was alien to the local culture and to exploit land, maintaining the status quo with a perpetual regime of oppression. The continuous military and police siege have pushed Orgosolo society to close more and more into itself, desperately trying to survive, preventive to have a cultural identity of its own, hence the permanence of an old way of life, almost archaic. During the 20th century, with the modest industrialization of the island, the Sardinian people became aware of the economic, social, and cultural factors that separate the subordinate classes from the dominant ones, and the inhabitants of the island from the wealthy compatriots of the continent. It is in fact a story lived in terms of opposition and exploitation, fueled by the master-slave dialectic. This feeling of oppression has taken different forms over the centuries. It has often been expressed through tumultuous rebellion and mass movement, sometimes involving anarchist groups in the pursuit of a sense of autonomy. A new social class now join the local shepherd. They are wage workers who have a class consciousness and are acquainted with the social issues. Eager to participate to the glimmer of cultural emancipation initiated by the younger educated generation. This creates, in fact, the necessary condition for an active participation of citizens in political life of their country. In 1967, a number of youth clubs of debate were born, some of them with a political connotation, others apolitical and non-partisan, which make extensive use of mimeography to raise awareness and to inform about the activities and initiatives of the circle. Posted on the wall, flyers spoke through images, often accompanied by short slogans. In these years, the dispute assumes a form yet unknown in that small part of Italy. In such a context of political fervor, the first mural appeared on the wall of the modest home of Orgosolo in 1969, imported by a collective of Milanese anarchists, the group Dionysus. It represents in fact the state of negligence prevailing in Sardinia, which even disappeared from the map of Italy. Then, with the arrival of a Chinese professor of art, the small Sardinian village began to be characterized by murals, later become famous. It is the first painting where, almost born by accident, Francesco del Casino, the professor of the art, in the middle school of the town, gave them a very specific historical political connotation. Since 1975, if year in Orgosolo, on the occasion of the 30th anniversary of the War of Liberation from Nazi fascism, Del Casino with his students undertake a historical research to demonstrate to the new generations how Sardinia had contributed to the movement of national liberation. They wanted to understand how the war has been lived in a marginal small country such as Orgosolo. They found out that after the armistice of the 8th September 1943, many citizens had enlisted in the participant brigades and many others fell in militant operations. A historical and philological research take place which aims to dispel the feeling of marginalization that has always characterized the Sardinian population. Through the recovery of local heroes who have made the history of Italy, the Orgosolo population expresses itself as an active part of a nation against which it usually fights. At the time, there were created and posted on the street more than 200 posters which show sentences accompanying illustrations. Later, someone proposed to paint them directly on the wall, and this is how the murals of Orgosolo were born. Therefore, the earliest wall paintings sprouted from the intent to rewrite the past, to relocate the existence of the community within a glorious history, such as liberation from Nazi fascism. The following initiative planned to represent on the walls the history of the character to which the streets are dedicated to. On this occasion, in fact, the comparison between the local and the national history takes concrete form. The Murals production of Orgosolo, already born with an organic form, subsequently developed as a space of rehabilitation, expression and claim of the small town community of Sardinia. Over the year, the streets of the small village were filled with mural paintings showing the hard life of its inhabitants, the status of women in the fields, drought or factory work. Eventually, this represents the expression of a population defining itself as a social opposing class to the dominant one. The subversive power of such awareness, but personal stories interact in a permanent combination with national microhistory, claiming the presence of Sardinian culture and identity with a unity of government that too often swallowed regional minorities. Along the streets of the town, a discourse of identity unfolds itself, in which the mural materializes and represents the collective memory, encouraging to think of a common past, no matter how distant or recent it is. They are in fact a representation of the popular identity, finally freed from the prejudice imposed by a sovereign and coercive state. It is a claim that is expressed not only through images, as you can see, but who constantly needs the right word. The phrases that follow the illustration emphasize and complete the speech articulated through the image, saying in Sardinian language in the paintings that tell the miserable lives of the locals, as the picture you see, the variable quotes in those which expose the stupidity of the states, or even poetic in those that exalt the deeds of heroes from distant cultures. It all serves to make the image easy to be interpreted, so that the message cannot be misunderstood and therefore used inappropriately. Therefore, murals speak, and I do it with a form of political communication precisely taken by those circles which opened the Orgosolo season of protests. Del Casino, the professor of art, recalls how they were inspired by the tazebar, always widely used in political demonstration. But the professor also stated that a great source of inspiration was the contemporary Chilean murals that in the same years appeared in the street of Valparaiso. They appeared for the first time in 1963 during the protest of the workers of the docks against low wages and miserable working conditions. Since the beginning, Chilean mural painting expressed their political vocation. From that, and for the next 10 years, groups of intellectuals and artists from Chile, the Brigadas, antagonists to the power of the state, used murals as a means of political protest. The main subject were the common people in their daily work, their hopes, and their aspirations. During the election campaign of the same year, the Brigada Romana Barra covered with mural painting several towns, cities, factories, and agricultural communities, illustrated with a few words but with strong signs, the program of Allende's party, Unidad Popular. The topics of struggle and revolt against the oppression and exploitation were so translated into a simple, straightforward language, accessible to all. Therefore, the Chilean experience, even if extemporary, took place in the streets of the city, as well in those of small villages, involving therefore any type of work. Both expressions, that Orgosolo and the Chilean experience, establish a global relation between the entire territory and the involved population. It is in fact an unofficial art, popular, that does not seek the consent of institutional sites or walls of representation, as was the case of the Mexican mural paintings. Even though exceptional in its aesthetic, it is in fact primarily developed on the walls of public buildings, as also within them, and it was widespread thanks to the public errands. However, in the case of the Sardinian murals, this could not be related, even physically, to an institutional wall, as this would mean putting them in relation with the dominant power, the same repressive power that picture actually criticized. The political significance of the struggle against the established order as class struggle is in fact a fundamental prerogative of the Orgosolo murals. It thus becomes an expression of awareness concerning the living condition of the community and the need of a self-determination. Eventually, this represents the expression of a population defining itself as a social opposing class to the dominant one. The subversive power of such awareness involves, therefore, the anti-urban space eventually overwhelming here. It is in fact a historical depiction, local heroes or something about the life of the citizens, or even them strictly related to recurrent events, such as the mural expressing disapproval for the war in Vietnam. Every time is functional to the construction of the local identity and the self-determination of the Orgosolo population. Indeed, if by a side the representation with more intimate and personal touch are connected to a painful past, consolidating at the very same time the collective historical memory, the ones linked to the current events define, on the contrary, the fundamental values in which the community trusts. Therefore, this is a consciousness that permits to understand and ideologically place its own experience. This is the case of mural depicting the denied rights of Americans, or even the armed struggle of the Cuban people led by Che Guevara. Thus, through this example, the community of Orgosolo seeks those feelings which are common to the all people who fought for their self-affirmation. This meticulous work of construction of a local identity has been possible only because of external intervention of a given figure, extraneous for training and cultural horizon to the Sardinian mentality. Even if this may appear as an inconsistency, it is not. Overall, if compared to the role the artist played in such a context. He was indeed able to collect the needs of the local population, to understand them and reprocess them through a symbolic language that intensify those functional elements in the construction of collective identity. The peculiar feature in Sardinia mural is that the local population immediately thought of itself as a homogeneous community, united by the same origins, the same values, the same needs, and with the same expectation. This resulted in a full identification of citizens in the work that had represented them, because anyone could recognize himself in those paintings. Even when a mural did not arise from a collective participation, people fully shared what it expressed, and it became therefore their own voice. The artist was to be the spoken person of the identity of the group, of its history and its claims, through a program that was chiefly educational. The casino, in fact, recognized that the purpose of the experience of Orgosolo were basically founded in a political acculturation of the local population. Thank you.
We will begin the Q&A. For questions, we have a microphone over there. If there is no questions, we can go to the coffee break.
Thank you. I have two questions for Luis regarding the idea of mass participation. You seem to use a concept of mass that is purely quantitative, which in a way disregards a whole history of a social-historical conceptualization of mass, which requires numbers. Obviously, you need to have a critical mass, to have a social mass, but it's based on collective interaction and how the collective is constructed on the social basis, which seems to be not be your concern in your research. So I don't know if you have anything to say about the social notion of mass, social and historical notion of mass, which also has a kind of political remit attached to it. The other question has to do with the notion of participation and whether, in the examples that you showed, participation is not. I wonder if it's not related to a certain notion of division of labor, where the artist becomes the manager of participators. Whether there might be other works which don't use, for instance, the internet, where this doesn't happen, but it seems that the artist asks someone else to do a bit of the work, and then he or she will reassemble the work either to an interface, internet interface, or other means. But there seems to be a kind of clear division of labor between the artist and the viewer, who in this case becomes a participator. I don't know if you as well have anything to say about that, but these are my two questions. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. You're right. I use mass mainly because of the number, okay? Because of the quantity. This has to do with with the notion of bottom-up approaches, self-organization, emergence. All of this requires very large numbers to function, so we can start to see emergent behaviors, for instance. And what this works bring about is the numbers. Is the okay? Finally, we are finally able to work with many people. Also, it has to do about kind of not a completely active notion of participation. We often find things that are very small contributions that in number build something. In this case, yeah, it's not okay. It's something I have to review, and I thank you for that. The thing of using the mass without referring to its political meaning, of course. Yeah, but I was talking about numbers.
I don't know. I don't want to monopolize the conversation, but because you referred to Nicolas Bourguignon and Claire Bishop, and obviously their understanding of participation.
It's radically different. Yeah?
It's not about. I mean, of course, numbers are important. I'm not neglecting the importance of numbers. Because if you have a general strike or a strike, it would be a mass or a collective movement where you need you have to go above a certain threshold in terms of numbers for the mass to become a mass, to become important. For the strike, let's say, the worker strike to be successful, you need that sort of collective, quantitative substance. But that's not important in that sense of collective movement. It's not the numbers themselves that is important. And because you referred to Claire Bishop and Nicolas Bourguignon, it seems that you're using certain idea of collective that they wouldn't represent from a conceptual theoretical point of view.
Yeah, sure. I started by saying that their view on participation is a lot of a social view or a political view on participation. And they talk about the politics, the social implications and the space implications and all of that. But I think as in theory, that's where we are right now. We are in Claire Bishop when we talk about participation. We are in Bourguignon. They are the key people. I try with this work, I try to abstain from that view to go to the aesthetic result, from the formal point of view. From the formal point of view, there is a very big difference in having participation occurring in the gallery space or something that a piece that happens because 200 people are united in a space and it makes the piece happen as in relational art measured by Bourdieu, and something that is brought about maybe a long time and a lot of people that are little by little contributing or making a thing happen. Sorry, I don't remember your second question. It was about
participation and division of labor.
I try not to talk about collaboration, as I think there's always one artist, and in this case, at least, there is an artist that devises a piece. But opening up the formal definition of the piece or the aesthetics of the piece to an outside participant brings to the piece the predictability. You can say the fine arts when they're starting to do things with random things to get them predictability, to get some surprising results, then choosing some. I think that what happens right now. Participation or the artist's use of participation strategies is to bring that we cannot predict what people do with their lives, and so not only that part, but also the part of the pattern making of broader number of contributions. I don't know if I answered the question.
But I think that the division of labor what you were talking about was quite evident in the first piece that you showed in a very ironic way, where the dollar bill, as of course an economy factor, is done by 10,000 people getting 0.001 cent, and I'm very glad that you showed that comment where that one participant said 0.0. You're kidding me, right? Really? So that could be something I think.
Yeah. Still about the same paper we heard. Obviously, there are some issues to explore. I was struck by the interdisciplinarity of the projects, so the various artistic processes. I have a question. You said, for example, they're borderline. Yeah. Is that secondary? That it could be writing, it could be graphic, it could be cartoons, it could be almost writing a novel. Obviously, it is a new element as a technology, as a new digital technology which allows these huge numbers. But not only that, but this obviously brings these different art forms together. Because when they started something like a cooperative novel, that was in the 50s, but that wasn't done with digital media. So my question is rather, is that less important for you, or what role does it play that there are different art forms involved?
Yeah, well, I think that that is very important as examples. Working with, we saw some very different approaches to this, and the examples. Well, I tried to bring examples from different fields. They're important as an example of the main aesthetic result of the formal result in each one of these cases has to do with those collective patterns, that unpredictability of the individual, and I think that can be brought about in whatever art form or art practice. In whatever field you can work on. It can be a novel, it can be text, it can be graphical, it can be whatever. I don't know if...
That wasn't fully a question, one more.
Okay, got it.